create a dotted dot in one day. Let's try that. Let's try that.
Yeah, and we're live.
All right, listen. Joshua, you up for doing some harmonica? What are we doing? Let's do the Spirit of Life.
Sure. What key?
C.
Good morning and welcome to the worship service of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Lakeland. My name is Ambra and I use the pronouns she and her. We are glad you are here, whether in person or virtually. UUCL is an affirming community, and whatever your gender identity, sexual orientation, race, ethnicity, abilities, or theological beliefs, you are welcome here. We would love to get to know you better, so please join us after the service on the patio, or if on Zoom, please say hello through the chat feature. Our newsletter is published every Wednesday, and it is the main source of information for what goes on around here, so be sure to sign up. If you already receive it, be sure to read it to find out about all the great things happening around here.
Of special importance, I would like you to know that we still need volunteers on the first Fridays of the month at our downtown tent for the downtown First Fridays. So we need people to be at the tent, to talk to folks, let them know about Unitarian Universalism and, you know, how awesome we are. Let's see. We have a Pathways to Community class starting next Sunday at 9:45 a.m. This is for all newcomers who want to learn more about Unitarian Universalism, about this Unitarian Universalist community and to get to know each other better. So that's at 9:45, starting next Sunday. It's a 6-week course, but you're not required to come to all the classes, just so you know, even though we'd like you to be there. But please let me or Maisel know if you are interested. The annual meeting of this congregation is May 22nd. That's coming up soon. I know that all of us on the board and on the committees are getting our reports into Helen, and you'll be getting the packet in the mail very soon. Right, Helen? Thank you. Okay. A celebration of life of Portia Westerfield Kroll, who is a longtime dear member of this congregation, will be held on Saturday, May 28th. And I will have exact times and all of that as I work on the details with Jim this coming week. And I see that the butterflies have awakened and come out of their chrysalises. And not only that, but it seems as though my spirit has so fully awakened that I'm now seeing fairies. You see them? Just a little bit of whimsy from our ritual artists is to remind us to awaken to everything that is around us. Now let us enter into this sacred space where we celebrate our connected circle of life. Breathe in, feeling the spirit of love in the center of your soul, and breathe out that love towards all your relations. Connected, we are whole. Sing with me, Alhamdulillah.
Our opening words this morning are from Amy Bowden Friedman, and it's called Once More. Once more, the earth has turned toward the light of the sun. As we are bathed in the light of a new day, so may we greet the dawning of fresh possibility. Once more, we awaken from our slumber. As our bodies rise to meet the challenges and pleasures of living, so may our hearts and minds open with promise. Once more, we gather for worship. As we join our voices in word and song, so may this assembly bring forth wholeness. Come, let us worship. Let us signify the creation of this sacred space where we join together and awaken to the journey. Let us light our chalice, the symbol of our faith. Today, our chalice lighter is Helen Dingus. We light this chalice to honor the possibility that this faith awakens us to. Hope amidst grief, joy woven with pain, and the depth of meaningful relationships to sustain us all. Please join us in singing and signing Spirit of Life.
Amen.
ritual every week as a way to honor the awakening to the complexities of life, the joy and the sorrows, and to the knowing that we are all in this together. We will invite you up to the chalice table to place stones in the water for your joys and sorrows that you carry with you today. No? There's no water. Pretend there's water. Gently place the stones in the bowl, and they will sit together. The green stones are for joy, the white are for concern, and the blue are for sorrow. If you are on Zoom, we will say your name and put a stone in for you so that we all know that we are together and connected, striving towards wholeness. If you want a specific color stone put in for you, please say so in the chat feature. Otherwise, we will put a green stone in for you because it is a joy to have you with us virtually. Thank you, and you are welcome to come up.
saving this world, or how in the heck? How in the world can we save the world from a mess of our own making? Why the heck Are we up to our necks in methane and excess packaging? We eat our cows, they don't complain. We drive with gas, more noxious fumes. Plastic here and plastic there, supporting what our ravenous society consumes. Do we consume more than our share of this planet? Are we learning more, cutting back on carbon fuels, switching to more wind and solar, electric cars and plant-based straws? Every little bit helps.
Thank you, Jeanette. How in the world can we save the world from a mess of our own making? I wonder what your email inboxes look like. Are they like mine, full of recommendations on how we can save the world? I get emails daily, and perhaps you do too, from organizations like the Audubon Society, Environment Florida, Conservation Florida, Move On, and Team 350, asking for donations or for the signing of a petition. And I get these emails because I do donate, and I do sign petitions, and I want to know what's going on and how I can help. But I ask myself, how effective are my small donations and petition signings? And is it all actually and fully reflective of me living my values and doing my part? If your email inbox resembles mine in any way, then it's probably true that you know that there's much work to be done on this earth. We need to save the bees, the butterflies, the birds, the polar bears, save native plants, clean up our water, the water we drink, and the oceans too. And we need to reach that big, big goal of net zero emissions if we want to halt climate change and really save the world from certain environmental disaster. If your email inbox looks anything like mine, then perhaps you have awoken to the truth of climate change and environmental degradation. But the emails, they keep coming, and we wonder when enough people will awaken to this truth too. And so that might leave us to ask, will my choice to use a plant-based straw and reusable shopping bag really help? Does it matter if I compost and recycle? Should I buy recycled toilet paper? What if I bought only used clothes and household items? I bought a car that gets better gas mileage. Will it help to stall climate change? It just all seems really impossible when we think about our own small lives and the small contributions that we each make compared to what a big majority of the rest of the country is doing. Consuming, consuming, consuming. That leads to an existential kind of despair. Does it all really matter? Too many people think it does not, so why should I? Here in the United States, our quality of life tends to be pretty good. For the majority of us, environmental disaster is seldom so obvious and right in front of our eyes, affecting our daily lives. It's easy to go along with business as usual and be pretty comfortable. It is, in fact, this way for much of the Northern Hemisphere. It is not this way, however, for much of the Southern Hemisphere. But it is, in fact, the huge amount of overconsumption by wealthy countries in the North that have impoverished and devastated the countries in the Southern Hemisphere. So to answer that other question that Jeanette posed in her poem, yes, we do consume more than our share of the planet. From an article in Popular Science, many people in the global North tend to think that it is their right and that it is normal to consume the amount that we consume today, says Vivian Frick, sustainability researcher in Germany. They often completely forget that the consumption level that we have depends on exploiting other countries, having cheap resources from other countries, and having cheap labor. Prices would actually be very different if they were fair. It's easy enough for us who are not yet suffering the severe consequences of overconsumption, poverty, and environmental destruction to answer that existential question of, does it really matter what little things we do with? No, we're fine, or we'll get it figured out, or come on, y'all, humans aren't going extinct anytime soon. But is not going extinct actually our goal? That's a pretty low standard. But in the Southern Hemisphere, the answer to this question is an urgent yes. It matters to people living there right now. Environmental destruction, poverty, and unsafe living conditions are happening in extreme ways right now. And we who live in the Northern Hemisphere have a moral obligation to stop destroying lives in the Southern Hemisphere with our overconsumption, even if they seem to be so far away as to not be a part of our reality. Even if the media does not write a story about these lives and bring this devastation to our attention. How in the world do we save the world from a mess of our own making? There's a debate in climate and environmental science on whether systemic change or individual change matters more. It's a complex answer. Ultimately, however, most climate scientists do agree that we must have systemic change if we are to get ourselves and the Southern Hemisphere out of this mess and into a clean and healthy future. Our politicians must make policies that lead us to net zero emissions. The big corporations need to make drastic changes. Without that, we simply won't succeed. And let me be clear. There is poverty and environmental degradation and health issues because of it, especially amongst marginalized populations here in the Northern Hemisphere too. It's also just very conveniently kept out of the media, although it might be in those emails in your inbox from organizations like Move On, who are trying to lift it up. And so we ask ourselves again and again, do our individual actions matter? I mean, if we can't save the world unless the politicians and the corporations do, which can seem pretty hopeless, why does it matter what we do? If all these little individual actions, all our little sacrifices, aren't ultimately going to save the world, it is easy to feel caught in a trap and to opt for a comfortable, consumerist American lifestyle instead. Because why not? Why bother? But are we caught in a trap of despair? Some climate scientists, even if they do emphasize that systemic change is ultimately a key piece of the solution, do say that those smaller things, yes, indeed, they do matter. Climate activist and author Genevieve Gunther says it does indeed matter that we each limit our individual carbon footprints, even if much is out of our capacity to control, because individual changes can trickle up. What we do can influence lawmakers to make policy changes, she says. I would say it like this. Culture change can influence policy and business decisions, and we, all of us, can be the shapers of that change. Systemic change and culture change must happen simultaneously. Can culture change move fast enough to save us? We are certainly up against a great big wall of climate change denial in this culture. Feel the despair again. How in the world can we save the world from a mess of our own making? I sat on my back deck the other day, a wonderful breeze moving through the trees, the birds and the butterflies moving around me, and I listened to spirit, or to those voices in my own head and heart that just kept saying, I want the small things I do to make a difference. I just really want it that way. And then Spirit said, it does matter. All the little things you do matter. They matter to your spirit, they matter to your own well-being, and that matters because it simply matters how I am in this world. Likewise, it is the same for all of you. Your spirit, your heart, We are important parts of a whole. One less plastic straw is one less plastic straw. And my moral compass says when I don't use that plastic straw, that yes, that is the right way to go. When I do use it, it yells at me and says, hey, that's not in line with your values, you're going the wrong way. When we make one simple individual action that is good for the planet, we save ourselves from internal discord and turmoil and the energy drain that it takes to fight with our moral compasses and turn ourselves around. What is good for the planet is good for each one of us. And then we can show up in our relationships with goodness and hope and the motivation to keep it going. We can do the work of putting pressure on politicians and corporations when we are motivated and inspired by our collective goodness. We can inspire others and bring them into this reality of interdependence. As a church community, that is what we are here to do. To awaken to life and to all the small things that make a difference puts us in a place of active hope. As defined by Joanna Macy and Chris Johnstone in their book entitled Active Hope, active hope is not wishful thinking. Active hope is not waiting to be rescued by the Lone Ranger or by some savior, or I would say, in other words, by politicians and corporations. Active hope is waking up to the beauty of life on whose behalf we can act. We belong to this world. The web of life is calling us forth at this time. We've come a long way and are here to play our part. Our seventh Unitarian Universalist principle states that we affirm and promote the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. Of which we are a part. That is our part. To be a part of the web of life and not to act as if we exist outside of it. If we don't act as if we are a part of it, which so many people don't, there is internal spiritual discord, and that plays out as destruction. When we awaken to what we are, that the web of life is a part of us, and we are a part of it, then our spirits are alive, and we can sustain and create life. Active hope is acting as if we belong to this world. Active hope saves us from internal strife and outward destruction. And active hope is the only way to save this world, because waiting for the right politicians or the good big corporation to do it will only leave us in despair. That is not good for us. It is not good for the earth. It's not good for marginalized communities or the Southern Hemisphere. Active hope is the spiritual experience that more people need in order for us to do justice for this earth and her creatures, of which we are a part. Macy and Johnstone provide guidance on how to move through this spiral of active hope so as to activate change in the world. They start with a gratitude meditation. They say that in the last 50 years, more resources have been consumed than in all preceding human history. Yet we are not any happier. It's because materialism tells the story of what is not there, and it drives us to consume more than our fair share. But if we engage in the story of gratitude, then we find what is there. We find all the bounty that already exists in the world. So let us take a few moments to root ourselves in gratitude. And if it works for you, perhaps this can be experienced as an expansion of the concept of Alhamdulillah, thank God, the phrase we have been singing all month. So get comfortable in your chairs and breathe. Let's do 3 breaths. In and out. In and out. In and out. Centering yourself in gratitude. Centering ourselves in the gratitude that roots us and begins the spiral that leads us towards action. I'm going to give you a sentence starter as offered an act of hope. Say it over and over again in your mind and keep filling in the blank with all the things you can think of. The sentence goes like this. Some things I love about being alive on earth are, fill in the blank. Some things I love about being alive on earth are. Some things I love about being alive on earth are. Find your gratitude as you think about these things. Gratitude can certainly cultivate a sense of deep interconnectedness. But as Joanna Macy points out, when we realize how interconnected we are, something else can start to creep up. Pain. When what we are grateful for and what we are connected to is destroyed or suffering, we feel the pain. This is a natural consequence of the earth living through us and us living through the earth. We are not separate from the earth, and the pain tells us who we really are. It is perfectly healthy to honor this pain, as long as we don't get stuck in it. It is unhealthy for us all not to acknowledge the pain. That is the path of disconnection and despair. When we start to believe that all the small things we do don't matter, we're ignoring or staying stuck in the pain. So let us take a moment to reflect on these questions. What troubles me about what's happening in this world? What troubles me about what's happening in this world? What are the feelings that come up when I think about these things? Let these things start to move in you. Don't let them get stuck in you, though. Breathe them out as you think about all the ways you can act that honor our earthly home. Thich Nhat Hanh once answered this question of how in the world can we save the world from a mess of our own making, or something similar to that, with what we most need to do is to hear within us the sounds of earth crying. If we view ourselves as separate individuals, this might not make sense. Yet our Unitarian Universalist spiritual tradition, through our seventh principle, acknowledges that we are deeply connected in this world, and so it is entirely natural to hear the earth crying, acting for the sake of our world does not seem like a sacrifice then. It seems like a natural thing to do. Remember that when you bump up against that question of despair that says, does it really matter? Because maybe it's not a matter of mattering necessarily. It's a matter of awakening to the natural thing to do for your life and for that of others. Traditional Darwinism tells the story of individuals who act out of self-interest. But what if we deepened our sense of self? Instead of seeing the protection of nature and of others as a sacrifice, we might see the protection of nature as protection of ourselves, the natural thing to do. Imagine yourself as a part of nature. Maybe you are laying in the grass. Imagine the boundaries of your body blending with the earth below you. When a sense of who we are changes, so does self-interest. When we realize our truly connected selves and we choose to help that which we identify with, the line between self-interest and altruism becomes meaningless. So when we enter this spiral of active hope by rooting ourselves in gratitude, we also realize who we are. The boundaries between us and the earth begin to disappear. We are of each other. We belong to each other. Jeanette also asked this question in her poem, why the heck are we up to our necks in methane and excess packaging? It's because we forgot that we are not separate from nature. We are nature. And as Albert Einstein said, no problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it. As we awaken, not only does the answer to the question change, but the question itself changes. How in the world do we save the world from a mess of our own making becomes, how do we behave in a way that honors who we are, that we are of the earth? How do we behave as if we are nature? How does nature behave naturally? I'd like to invite musicians up to sing for us. Who will speak for Mother Earth?
Thank you.
are nature itself, puts you in that spiral of active hope and opens you up to speaking for Mother Earth. Once in that spiral of active hope, I hope that we are compelled to do the hard work of motivating policy change at the government and corporate levels. So I'm going to invite you up now to light a candle, to activate your hope, and to renew your commitment to our seventh Unitarian Universalist principle, that you affirm and promote the interdependent web of all existence of which you are a part. On the table, you can light the candle, and you can also take a piece of paper, which gives you tangible ways to speak for Mother Earth. I invite you now while our musicians serenade us. the job done every time.
We've now come upon the moment when we can share our treasures with this community as an act of faith. When we each give what we can back to life, we serve a greater good, creating a powerful, beautiful beauty that can change the world. Before we pass the plates, we invite Ken Schmidt and Helen Dingus up to share with us why they give to this UUCL community.
So, why do I donate financially to UUCL, and why do I devote my time and energies to UUCL? I became a U, later a UU, when I first discovered there was a group of people who thought like me. And that much of what traditional churches said I didn't believe, like the Apostles' Creed, that said, that I wanted to say, I do not believe. And you are my family, my extended family and my friends, and I want this church to be here for all of us, now and in the future. I want this church to be here so there will never be a time when someone else discovers what UUs are and can't find a church to attend. I want to proselytize without proselytizing. Just to be here for when people decide that this is the church for them, and to show people what we are all about and with what we say and do about societal problems, as we currently do with the homeless and recently did with It Takes a Village. And the other things we do for the community as well as for us, such as making our church available to groups who would find it difficult to find a place to meet, such as AA, ACA, NA, and refugee recovery. And our displays outside, like the Black Lives Matter flag and the LGBTQ plus flag, and the large Black Lives Matter sign outside on the side of the kitchen, which make people think, and maybe think, a caring church like this might just be for me. Everyone has things they like to do. I do a number of things that are either I like to do or have the abilities to do to support the church and to make this church a lasting institution for future generations.
Hi, everybody. I'm Helen Dingus, and I'm currently employed here as the office administrator. And I've been a member for about 8 years. And during that time, I have volunteered in the religious exploration program and in tech. And I've been on the board. And thanks, Adam. And I've also pledged every year. When I started coming here, my husband and I were, he had just gotten a job a few months before, and we had just gotten a car. And we had been on welfare. We'd been unemployed for several years. And so we really didn't have any extra money. But I gave what I could, and when I was asked to pledge, I pledged a little bit. Not much, because I really didn't have extra. But, a little bit. And then, as my husband made more money, I pledged more money. But I still gave my time because I had more of that than I had money. And, this community, when my husband died, and we were in the midst of a pandemic, people sent me messages, sent me letters and cards, brought me food, sent me DoorDash, sent me calendars and puzzles and just love. Love. That's why I give. Because I love this community, and I get back tenfold what I give.
And the ushers will come with the offering.
From desert, cliff, and mountaintop, we face the wide design, strike, slip, fault, and overthrust, and sin, and incline.
We gaze upon creation, where erosion makes it known, and count the countless eons in the banding of the stone.
Long-vanished creatures and their tracks and shells are found. Where tooth has left its sketches on the slate below the ground.
The patient stone can speak if we but listen when it talks.
Humans wrote the Bible. God wrote the rocks.
There are those who name the stars, who watch the sky by night, seeking out the darkest place to better see the light.
Long ago, when torture broke the remnants of his will, Galileo recanted, but the earth is moving still.
High above the mountaintops, where only distance bars, the truth has left its footprints in the dust between the stars.
We may watch and study, or may shudder and deny.
Humans wrote the Bible. God wrote the sky.
By stem and root and branch we trace, by feather, fang, and fur, how the living things that are descended from those that were.
The moss, the kelp, the zebrafish, the very mice and flies, these tiny, humble, wordless things, how shall they tell us lies?
We are kin to beasts, no other answer can we bring. The truth has left its fingerprints on every living thing.
Remember, should you have to choose between them in the strife,
Humans wrote the Bible. God wrote life.
And we who listen to the stars, or walk the dusty parade,
Or break the very atoms down to see how they are made.
The profoundest act of worship is to try to understand.
Deep in flower and in flesh and in star and soil and sea.
The truth has left its living word for everyone to read.
So turn and look where best you think the story is unfurled.
Humans wrote the Bible.
God wrote the world.
My blood doth rise in the roots of yon oak. Her sun doth run in my veins. Boundless my soul to the open sky, where the stars forever ablaze. Where the stars, where the stars, where the stars forever ablaze.
My hands hold the weavings of time without end. My sights as deep as the sea. Beating my heart sounds the measure number, that of love's eternity. That of love, that of love, that of love's eternity.
I feel the tides as they answer the moon. My side as deep as the sea. Bringing my side is the wind of my rest, and my longings over the land. My foot carries days of the old to new. Our dreaming shows us the way. Wondrous our faith settles deep in the earth, rising green to bring a new day. Rising green, rising green, rising green to bring a new day.
Amber, would you please lead us in the chalice extinguishing?
Please join me as we extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this chalice, but not